and welcome to the Ended Up in Vegas podcast. I'm Nikki.
I'm Megan.
Today we're talking about one of the biggest hot topics that we have living in Southern Nevada. It is the water shortage that we have here. So many things that people don't know about the mega drought. We're going to clear them up today. My friend Jon Castagnino is here from the Southern Nevada Water Authority. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, ladies. Great to be here. So excited. And I said it off camera. I'll say it on camera. I think what you guys are doing for the community is awesome. So this is a cool show and happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much for being here. So tell us first how you ended up in Vegas.
Ooh, this is a great story.
Yes.
It's a great story. I'm going to take you back to 1960 Chicago, okay? So not in Vegas.
Yeah.
You have Bill and Patricia Castagnino.
Yeah.
They've been dating for a little bit, and not dad at the time, right, asked my mom to marry him, called it off a second time. Okay. Yeah. And then at this point, at 60 Chicago, you have to put a deposit at the hall for the wedding.
Right.
So they put down a deposit, and it was my mom's parents that did that. Dad called off the wedding. Mom's parents were not happy about this one bit. Okay. So I guess randomly one day, Dad goes to Mom and says, "Hey, I'm moving to Vegas. Would you like to come with me?" And the obvious answer would be, "Yes, I'm coming. We're getting married." And so he obliged to that. They moved out to Vegas in 1970. I guess you could call it an elopement. They went to one of the little chapels on the Strip, got married then, and they've been together for now 53 years in July. So
that's awesome.
That's it. So that's how I ended up in Vegas. So born and raised out here.
Yeah.
Native, 1980, St. Rose de Lima Hospital on Boulder Highway.
Nice.
And I remember when the valley ended on the south end at Warm Springs Road.
Yeah.
And now it is, how much further beyond that? So it's crazy, but that's how I ended up here.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And your parents are still here?
They're still here.
Yeah.
Still alive and kicking. My dad, day one employee at the Mirage. He's a bartender there. So if you've ever been there, likely you've been served a drink by him. So he's been there since day one. So that would be 1989. I don't know. I can't do the quick math in my head. 33 years, 34 years.
Yeah.
He's been at the Mirage. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
wild.
So John's radio or TV voice is from being a sports reporter for how many years?
Quite a while. And I still like to say I do it. So I started it. My first job was at Channel 13 in 2004 after I graduated from UNLV. I was a producer there. But yeah, I've been in the sports biz for a long time ever since, and still even in my current role at the Water Authority, I still teach at UNLV. So kind of backtracking, current Southern Nevada Water Authority, I teach one class at UNLV, but before that, I started their sports journalism program, which is a really big badge of honor for me. It's called the Rebel Report, if anybody's heard of it or seen it. But hundreds of students have come through that program. I managed that for 5 years, and I still stay in contact with a lot of those students. They're all over town, working with the Knights, working with the Raiders. It's really awesome. And again, I do have a lot of pride in that program, and I'm happy to continue to work with the university in that role. And then before that, I was kicking around in smaller markets. Well, I take that back. I was in Vegas. I worked at Fox 5 with you for a number of years, 8 years, forgot about that. Somewhere in between, I got hit with cancer diagnosis. So I wake up really grateful every day and overcame that. And then again, going backwards, small markets in Texas, Wyoming. But sports it's always been in my blood since a young age, again, with my Chicago roots. And you guys might remember this, but there was only two stations that aired national sports back when I was a kid. It was WGN and TBS, right? WGN aired the Cubs. So I'd run home from elementary school to catch the end of a Cubs game where they typically lost. But hopefully you know who Harry Carey is, the guy with the Coke bottle glasses. Will Ferrell did a parody of him, but I'd watch him almost daily as a kid, and I'm like, that seems like a cool job.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what started my love for sports and sports broadcasting.
So fun.
Yeah. So there's no better person that we can talk to today than hearing from you about the thing that pretty much everyone who lives in or outside of Vegas doesn't know about the water situation going on right now. We have a mega drought that we're not coming out of. What's the biggest challenge in educating people in your role at the Water Authority about the shortage and what the actual situation is?
Sure. Before I answer that, I'll give you a quick story just about how worldwide what we're doing in Southern Nevada is I was on vacation. I ran into a gal from New Zealand, and I said, "Oh, we're from Vegas." And she said, oh, what's going on with the drought out there? I mean, it's a major worldwide thing. And, and really, we're leaders. We're at the forefront. But education is so important in what we do, right? So to answer your question, I kind of forgot a little bit of it. But to answer your question, really, it's just educating people on what the actual truth. There's so many myths about water use in Southern Nevada. Like if I told you, what's the number one water user in Southern Nevada? People would say it's the resorts. People would say it's the golf courses. By and large, and far and away, the number one water user in Southern Nevada is outdoor irrigation for your landscape. 60%, 60% of our water that we use in Southern Nevada goes to outdoor landscaping. And that blows people away. They don't realize it. And another thing that they don't realize, by and large, is that if you use water indoors and it hits a drain, that water, virtually all of it is recycled and sent back out to the lake. That's what allows us to extend our water supply. So it's okay to take a longer shower. I mean, we don't encourage it because it takes energy to heat up that water at your home, and it takes energy to push it to your home. But if you use a little bit more water indoors, not a big deal because we're going to recycle it. It's the outdoor water on your big pool, on your big lawn. That's what we're trying to educate folks. And really, again, the community has stepped up in a lot of ways. We had a great 2022 last year with our water usage actually coming down and folks recognizing, the situation that we're in. But we still have a ways to go. So we're out here educating folks as much as we can about, what they can do to play their part in this water shortage.
Yeah. So let me tell you the way that I feel when I see someone like washing their car in the driveway or a sprinkler that's burst pouring over the sidewalk. I literally feel like I'm dying of thirst. Is there a chance we're ever going to die of thirst in Southern Nevada?
So I can't answer that question specifically. Here's what I can say is that the Water Authority saw this scenario 20 years ago. And they started building infrastructure 20 years ago for this exact spot that we're in right now. So if you have heard of the low lake level pumping station and the third intake at Lake Mead, these are facilities that essentially draw water from Lake Mead at the very deepest point. And I can really get detailed on this, and I'll try to keep it at a high level. It can draw water even if Lake Mead gets so low that Hoover Dam stops generating power, and even so low that Lake Mead essentially turns into a river, if I can phrase that right, because obviously you have Hoover Dam, right? It keeps back the water, and then the water flows through Hoover Dam at a measured rate downstream to Arizona, California, Mexico. So even if that level drops so low, where now Hoover Dam essentially stops working and it can't hold back water, we would still have the ability in Southern Nevada to get our full share of water at Lake Mead because of the infrastructure that we have out there. So we're secure, but conservation is still our number one goal out here because any water that we're allocated that we are able to save and we can't use, it's just water that we can bank for future use. So we want to save as much of it as we can.
Yeah, so those are the things that I want you to touch on. What are we not doing in 2023 living in the desert?
Yeah, really it's the basic stuff, honestly. And you'll hear us repeatedly. We talk about outdoor landscaping because that is the number one way that residents can pitch in and help, right? So it's changing your irrigation clock 4 times a year, right? When the summer watering restrictions hit, spring, fall, winter, going in your garage if you have the traditional controller, and I get it, it's intimidating, right? It's like a maze. I used to have one of those, and it's challenging, and so some people just ignore it, right? And so they're overwatering in the winter. They might have it set to 5 or 6 days a week in the winter when you only need to water your landscape 1 day a week. And you think about the thousands of gallons that means, and again, outdoor water, we cannot recycle. So really, if residents do that, or that they can get a smart irrigation controller, which is super easy to install, and now you have an app on your phone, and it'll take you just a couple minutes, so you can monitor your landscape a lot more closely, but also you don't have to fiddle with that controller. It's a lot easier. We offer a rebate for that at snwa.com. It's really simple stuff. And again, we thank the residents that are doing that have gotten that smart controller, but there's still a very large number of folks out there that don't follow the mandatory seasonal watering restrictions. And it's billions of gallons of water if people just follow those mandatory watering restrictions.
Well, I can attest to this because I have grass, and I'm one of those people. I know it's
front
frowned
yard or backyard. I'm going to interrupt you.
Both.
Okay.
It was put in.
Talk about the front.
Yeah, it was put in from the home builder when the house was built 20 years ago, and it's hard to maintain, but a lot of it's on the landscapers. So even as a homeowner who wants to be in control of it, I swapped out to a beehive system about a year and a half ago. And so I'll go in and adjust it even against my landscapers' recommendations to make sure I'm following that. There's a lot of really good information on the Water Authority's website on how to set timers and cycling irrigation or
Very
sprinklers
good.
for your grass.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do all of those things, but it's definitely a challenge, even if you want to be doing it right, don't you think?
Yeah, and that's it. Again, it's the challenging part about changing habits, right? Because before the water shortage, right, and when Lake Mead was full 20 years ago, you didn't really have to worry about it.
Sure.
You could water your landscape. Grass wasn't a big deal out there. But times have changed, and we have researchers. I mean, climate change is real. The numbers are real, right? There is less snowpack in the Colorado Rockies, which makes up 90% of our water supply. And we had a good year this year. Lake Mead is going to go up about 15 to 20 feet over the course of the rest of the year, which is fabulous. But you look at the past 20 years, these good years, they're fewer and further between. So we just are asking people to change their habits.
Yeah.
And that's monitoring their landscapes a lot more closely. And again, we have rebates to take out that grass in your front lawn. And it's okay. Residents, by and large, again, as long as they're following those seasonal watering restrictions, we don't have an issue with grass, right? But we say if only a landscaper touches it, it's essentially non-functional grass. You don't use it for anything, right? You have backyard grass maybe for your pets or your kids play on. And again, following the watering restrictions, that's fine. Residents, again, are playing ball by and large. But if you're not using it, we ask you to consider replacing it and really save our community some water.
I can't tell you how many people I have seen hosing off their cars in their driveway.
Yeah.
And I was like actually trying to explain, like, this is not something we do anymore here.
Yeah.
My dad would wash down the driveway, in the 90s with the hose,
Yeah.
right? But like, I was like, okay, so we're not recapturing that water. And I actually had a neighbor say to me, oh no, it goes down to the gutter and it's recaptured into the sewer.
We hear that a lot. Yep. We
Most
hear
of
that
it
a lot.
evaporates.
It's 115 degrees. It doesn't make it there. It doesn't make
Absolutely right. We hear it all. And part of my team is the social media team. Hundreds of messages a day, thousands of comments, and so we hear it all the time. And again, we try our best to get the right information out there. Go to a smart car wash.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We have a coupon for that on our website. And what I do is I print out 10 of them at a time, and I keep them in the car, and it's Terribles, it's Freddy's, it's a bunch of them out there, and it'll save you time, it'll save you trouble. And that water that they use, they recycle it there. Some of their systems recycle it, but theirs hits the drain immediately.
Yeah.
That water is recycled, so that's why we encourage folks to use one of those water smart car washes. But yeah, again, and you can water your car in your driveway. I believe it's once a week, as long as you have one of the valves, like a spray nozzle,
And
it's
not
not just a
just-
hose spraying everywhere, right? So it's not illegal, but you're right. I mean, it's got to make it to a drain for it to be recycled.
Is there a day when that becomes illegal? Is there going to be a day where if we don't follow the guidelines that are being asked of us right now, that it will get more strict?
Well, I can say that's a question for our senior managers, right? And they work hard. They work closely with the state legislature. And I can tell you, and you probably have seen it over the past few years, that there's been some, legislation, bipartisan legislation. And the big one was the non-functional grass. That's what we
Right.
call it. But businesses, they have until 2026 to remove all this, or the end of 2026 to remove all this non-functional grass. And I saw it coming into your office here. Street sides, roundabouts. Again, this is grass that nobody uses, that uses a ton of water. And you're talking about numbers-wise, it's 73 gallons per square foot per year.
Wow.
That's a column of water that's 10 feet high. So it's 10 feet of rainfall to keep this grass alive, grass that nobody uses. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's a challenge. And again, we're not 20 years ago.
Right.
So I'm proud to say that the organization I work for is a worldwide leader when it comes to this type of legislation.
Right.
Right. And our state recognizes the situation that we're in, and we're acting appropriately.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, like being a local and knowing what we've been doing this entire time and having a background in news and seeing what the plans were for the third intake and just knowing like our recycling measures and how we have really prepared and helped other states jump on what we're doing. Tell us what are the parameters of getting rid of the grass? It's not just offices, right? It's like if you have an HOA, if you have a neighborhood. So to explain kind of like the people who should expect, I think we've had some clients and other people who have purchased homes in neighborhoods because they're full of grass, but they're not getting used and maybe they haven't come out yet. So those will be affected too, right?
Yeah, at a very high level, it affects everybody except homeowners, right? Okay. So it's businesses, it's HOAs,
right?
And some places, even the school district is affected by this, where, again, there are specific rules governing where you can place turf now.
Yeah.
The only new places that can have grass installed are schools, so you can use it at schools. Following the guidelines. You can put it in at parks and you can put it in at cemeteries. Otherwise, that's it. That's where we're at now. So any new home does not have grass in it. If you have grass right now, of course, you're allowed to keep that grass. But any new home built from, and this was a few years ago, but from that point on, can't have grass anywhere on your property.
Yeah. So if you're looking at homes in neighborhoods that are, beautiful grass entrances by 2026.
Yeah, the end of 2026. Yeah, those are going away. And some communities have been really proactive on it. Again, and the Water Authority is offering rebates to anybody, right, to convert grass to desert-friendly landscaping. It's $3 a square foot for the first 10,000 square feet, I believe, and then after that it drops to $1.50. So there is money out there for anybody, whether you're a business or part of the school district, and they're one of our top customers, for lack of a better way to put it. They've been a great partner with the Southern Nevada Water Authority, removing grass, and it's millions of square feet of turf from the football fields and just from grounds in general, and they've saved tens of millions of gallons, and it's annually that they do it. So there's options out there, and again, we get it. People that move from the Midwest or they move from the East Coast, and they're used to grass. We're in a desert, and we just have to adapt to it.
Talk about new construction a little bit. I think that's one of the things that we hear about.
Yeah, and any of the threads, they'll say, why do they allow people to keep building? Sure. That's probably the one that's like I don't want to say misconception, but that's one of the ideas that people throw out there as a solution to the water situation.
Yeah, and our answer is it's not if we grow, it's how we grow. Right?
Yeah.
And the new homes that they're building today, again, have an extremely small water footprint overall. It's really just the outdoor landscaping. And because you can't have grass and they're on drip irrigated plants, by and large, the new homes don't nearly have the consumptive footprint as somebody with a 2-acre property that has grass everywhere, right? So it's just being smart with it. And I'll go back to the economy. When I was working in news with you, right, 2008, it was a rough time for everybody. When construction stopped, you saw what happened to this economy out here. I mean, Vegas is an economy, accept it or not, that is based on growth and construction. Right. And if that stops, a lot of people are going to lose jobs, right? So it's not, again, if, it's how. And really, the legislation that the Water Authority has worked with the state on is really setting the stage, again, for us to be very sustainable into the future.
Yeah. So one of my resistances to taking out my grass is it makes my neighborhood, my house cooler. I can tell a significant difference in my neighborhood versus other areas, but I'm not opposed to doing something different. Is there another alternative besides just adding more rock, which, radiates heat and, is, not as aesthetically pleasing as grass, but I mean, I'm open to it. So
sure. Well, I've got a couple answers for you. First, when you talk about grass and it's cooler, actually shade trees provide more as far as dropping temperature because they throw shade on the ground and keep the ground cooler, where grass is just like a swamp cooler for your yard. You put water on it, it evaporates. That's what makes it cooler, and that's what you have in your front yard. So trees are great, but I'd encourage anybody to go to the Springs Preserve and get some amazing ideas for some outdoor landscaping that is amazingly beautiful, that doesn't consume a lot of water. And there's so many examples on our website too, snwa.com. And I get it because we hear it all the time. Oh, I don't want to put rocks on there. And we get it. It's probably the most inexpensive way to take out your grass. But also, you can have an amazing yard. I have a couple neighbors in my yard that's it's just lush with desert landscaping. It takes a little bit of time, effort, but we provide the tools on our website. There's a plant search. And again, go to the Springs Preserve. We offer the rebate. So we're making it as easy as it possibly can be for folks to have a beautiful yard save some water, and do their part in the community.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there are also really wonderful people at the nurseries in town too, who if you ask them like what are good trees and other cool scape ideas that don't take a lot of water, that they can give you those answers too. So tell us, just beyond what we've talked about, what are some of the other things that you work to clear up in your role in educating the public about the water?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many that I can't think of one off the top of my head. No, there's a lot. We talked about the big ones are, again, the 60% of our water use is outdoors. California's not taking our water. Lake Mead is a shared resource.
Sure.
Hoover Dam was built as a federal project, right? So Lake Mead is shared, and Nevada gets the smallest share. The story goes, it's I don't know how true it is or not, but back 100 years ago, when they drew up how they were going to split up the water from the Colorado River, that Nevada's representative showed up drunk, typical Vegas, right? And Nevada has, and again, I mean, what was our population 100 years ago?
Right.
Nevada got the smallest share in those negotiations, 1.8%. Again, to break down the numbers, we get 300,000 acre feet of water per year, and I think California gets 4 million acre feet of water. It's over 10 times what we're appropriated, and yet Nevada has been so amazing at doing so much with so little water. And it's not the resorts. Resorts, about 6% of our annual water usage. Golf courses, about 5% of our annual water usage, right? And we know that those industries get attacked, but you look at the resorts and the water they use in their pools, that's the hardest working water in Southern Nevada for the money that they generate.
Sure.
And also one more, they're all coming back to me now. One more, the water at the Bellagio fountains is not water from Lake Mead. That's groundwater. That is a private well owned by MGM Resorts. They have actually a few wells up and down the strip that power their water features out there, and they've done a lot with their technology. The Venetian has done a lot. So there are a lot of strip properties that are doing their part to conserve water as well. But there's still a lot of opportunities to go. Evaporative cooling is something that we're looking at. Pools, which I'm sure you all are familiar with, is something that we're working on as well. So there's continued steps that we can take here, and we're just trying to educate folks about it.
Yeah. I think the education that I grew up with was that you could basically turn on every faucet in every hotel and we wouldn't be losing really any water because it's 99% of it is recycled. Is that the number?
Yeah, we say virtually every drop. So if you say 99% plus, that would be accurate. Again, if it hits a drain, it's making it to the Clark County Water Reclamation District. It's making it to a recycling, like Henderson runs their own, North Las Vegas runs their own. All of that water ends up flowing through the Las Vegas Wash, which is an amazingly beautiful area if nobody's visited it. But that goes from the Wash back into Lake Mead. And that's, again, I don't want to get too technical, but we get return flow credits. So for every gallon we return, we are able to take that gallon back out. So again, indoor water, not as big of an issue as outdoor water, that if you're overwatering or, again, not following the mandatory seasonal watering restrictions, you're just sinking water, and that's water that we can't recapture and use again.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Okay, so let's pivot to Las Vegas now. We want to talk to you all things sports. We just won the Stanley Cup.
Holy cow. Amazing, right?
Like, so crazy.
Growing up here, I felt like as a kid, I kind of got robbed. Because I didn't have pro sports out here. We had the Rebels, which was awesome. We had the Las Vegas Stars. We had the Wranglers. We had the Thunder, right? And those were all fun and entertaining. But I'm watching, pro sports on ESPN, and I'm thinking, why don't we have a team out here? So it was worth the wait for me. 43 years. Well, and you're 37-ish to get a pro team out here, right when the Knights came. What a blessing, and what a cool thing that Bill Foley was able to do. And even if you think just, 7 or 8, maybe 10 years ago, no pro sports franchise would touch Las Vegas. They use this as leverage. they'd come and talk to us. They'd
Right.
talk to Mayor Goodman,
Right.
and we'd put on a show,
Yep.
and then they'd bring their team somewhere else. We got used and abused.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now we're on this big stage and proving that Vegas is a major market city.
Yeah.
And you guys saw William Carlson's speech, right? Speech.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a great speech.
Defining moment for
Yeah.
our city.
I was really upset at the handler. I'm sure she's a lovely woman, but
I think a lot of people were. So I was down there, and yeah,
I was like, somebody give that woman a drink. Just let him live.
I see both sides of that.
Yes.
Right? I see both sides
Yeah.
of it completely.
Same.
And I'm glad that one of our television partners out here was Channel 13 was able to air the unedited version of it live. And I think it's legendary. Of course, yes, they're both sides. I
Yeah.
loved it. And I think it was really cool to see our city on that stage. And man, we showed out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. Were you at the parade? Where did you?
No, I opted
I was.
out.
You-
You know, I should have been at the game. I should have been at the game.
Yeah.
Were you at the game?
I was at the game.
Yeah,
Yes.
I should have been at the game. And you know, the whole thing was we found a spot. We were, hooked to the TV. We found a comfortable spot. We had fans around us. It was off strip. And I should have had the presence of mind to be like, we need to get in an Uber right now and go down to the strip.
Yeah.
A friend of mine did that, and he showed up. I think the score was like 4-1. And he was there at least for the last half of it. And I'm like, I really wish I could do that again.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. And
Yeah.
that can only happen once. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I love that. Again, I'm still kind of alive in the sports scene around here. So I'm working with the university and having students there covering the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And I was there with them.
Amazing.
My brain was scrambled because I'm
Yeah.
like, this is actually happening.
Right.
I
It
couldn't
was
believe it.
such an experience.
Yeah.
So I was at the Hard Rock Cafe for a viewing party, and I think it was at Fox 5 was there
Yeah.
filming as well.
Yeah.
And it was just like my first New Year's in Vegas. Like it was just even beyond that. And then we went down on the strip afterwards, and there was like kind of down by T-Mobile and Toshiba Plaza. It was just people everywhere. It was almost like Mardi Gras. Like the energy was incredible. It was like a once in a lifetime experience.
We're a real community with real people,
Yes.
right? And that really brings the city together. The Knights were the first ones, and I think they're the OGs of
Yeah.
pro sports in Vegas. Raiders are great, and the A's, as much as people want to go back and forth about what they'll bring to the community, baseball is a great sport too. So it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. We've always been the sports capital of the world, even before the Knights were here.
Yeah.
With so many events always coming here, UFC, boxing, just major events. But again, to kind of close it out and really kind of put a bow on Vegas is here was really neat to see.
Yeah.
That leads to my next question, which is about the A's. You know, when I was working at Fox 5 with Jon, it was when they announced that the Golden Knights were coming to Vegas. And, I think my only, hockey, know anything was of the Blackhawks because my dad was a Chicago fan because of his friend. So that's really like all I knew of it, and they were like, this is going to be huge. And we did so many stories on how, the naysayers were like, hockey will never work in Vegas. So now we're talking about baseball. And not only are we talking about baseball, but like this controversial deal that has now been approved. So what do you think of that? And just to give the viewers, you could probably give everyone a great background on what just was approved.
Well, here's my 2 cents on it, right? Again, growing up here, I don't know the full details of the deal, but I know the deal is a special tax district on that land, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, no one is paying for it unless you go on that property, and now you're paying a special tax. Now, I again, don't know this fully, but I know there was a little controversy, like once the stadium is paid for, now where does that money
Right.
go?
No property tax. Yeah.
And I understand that part, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that could be an issue. But essentially, you're paying to use that facility.
Sure.
So for me, when I go down there, I'm happy to pay and enjoy a baseball game. I'll be there when the Cubs are there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know that I'm going to get season tickets to that facility. So I do see both sides of this, but I mean, I grew up a sports nut. I'm a sports nut. I say bring them here. Again, traffic details to work out. I understand the concerns about that. I understand concerns about filling up that stadium. But 30,000 seats for a Major League Baseball stadium, it's not big. Some go up to 45-ish, but it's like a mid-tier size.
Yeah.
Attendance-wise, it's probably good that it's on the strip because you'll get walk-up people that, oh, there's a baseball game in town. They'll go there and they'll check it out. So I think there's some legitimacy to that, where at least it may not necessarily draw people there, although you will have, crazy fans for whatever team, the Yankees, the Red Sox, all those teams will travel well. They will fill up that stadium. I don't know how many people would come just specifically for that, but it is an entertainment thing for people to go there, and then enjoy the rest of their night on the Strip.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know who's watching, the Oakland A's are going to be coming to, or plan to come to, a stadium that will be built in the place where the Tropicana Hotel is on Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard. The biggest controversy is that, for me, being in real estate, this is one of our most valuable pieces of real estate in the entire state. And in the past, in my background in news, I really only saw the legislature and the governor getting behind giving public money to a private project if it were somewhere out of the way where we wanted some type of infrastructure to be built for a particular reason, to populate that area, to grow jobs, to do those types of things. And there's this added controversy of the A's management. So kind of speak to that, is this a trustworthy group of people who we're inviting to come to Vegas and take some money that we've raised for them?
That's tough to say, isn't it? And I'm getting more familiar with A's ownership. I mean, clearly the people in Oakland don't like the owner. I think it's John Fisher is his name.
Right.
So reputation is not good.
Yeah.
But you can't get inside the books of Major League Baseball, right? They're like the NFL. You don't really kind of see the inside baseball, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen. I mean, I can't predict the future here, but what I could say is that, they've slashed payroll. Nobody's showing up to those games. When you come to Vegas, you got to be a winner. I mean, you look at the Knights, and you look at, UNLV basketball, right, where when they're winning, everything's great. They're not winning. The attendance isn't there. It's coming back. And all for Kevin Kruger and what he's doing with that program there. So, I mean, it's a tough call because, again, I keep saying I see both sides.
Yeah.
Listen, personally, I would be okay if baseball didn't come. I would be okay with it. We have enough now.
Yeah.
Right? I would be okay with it. But to have another added bonus and another option for residents and for our tourists to go and have some entertainment on the Strip, I think that the owner will get, really beat up if he doesn't put a good product on the field. And at that point, are we too far in bed with them that we're kind of hosed?
Yeah.
That's something that legitimately, yes, we should be worried about.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen projects. We've seen projects go dead. We saw an entire Strip go quiet, during
All Net Arena. That's I don't know if you remember that one. That's been on hold for 12 years, I think. And that was on the north end of the Strip. So, yes, we've been used as leverage. But once Major League Baseball, right, they're already talking about approving the relocation. I think this is legitimate until it's not, right? I don't know what could go sideways here. Again, having the legislature pass it. But for a sports guy, it's a sports guy's dream. It's just another option for us to go and check out.
Yeah, well, and that's what we were talking about when we won the Stanley Cup. It was like, okay, we're determined. We're going to more games next year. Like everybody's, refreshing all of this energy for it. But also, is we want to give attention to the teams who are already doing well, like the Aces, who
Absolutely.
Are so we were looking up tickets the other day. To go. So, speak to some of the other sports things that are going on.
I love the Aces. I think they get great support. I think Asia Wilson is one of the best ambassadors this city has, right? And again, you could make the argument, and a lot of people do, they don't get enough attention, and they don't. They're fabulous.
Right.
I love going to WNBA games. I love Kelsey Plum. I love that we have the head coach, Becky Hammond, as our head coach. They fit the mold of Las Vegas. I think it's great that Mark Davis is the owner of that team, putting resources, building their own facility out here. I think we're learning that Las Vegas can support all of these.
Right.
Because our metro area, it's over 2 million people right now. I mean, it's going to approach 3 million. And I think there was some projection that I saw 5 million by 2050. It's, we have the people to support it. I think the Aviators are going to do just fine on the west side of town because there's plenty of people out there that don't want to go down to the Strip. Again, if you want to see the A's, you can go down to the Strip and you can deal with that traffic and attend that game. So I think we're doing okay, and I think we're proving it, right?
Yeah.
The Knights are doing well. The Raiders are doing just fine. again, the A's, you're going to see some slow days. You will. If Dog Days of Summer on a Wednesday night, I don't think it's going to draw 30,000 people. Maybe it draws 12. Maybe it even draws 8. I think there's enough sports fans here. Their season tickets should do okay. But again, they've got a few years. The product has to be there. And if it's not, those season ticket deposits are going to go away pretty quickly. So I'm optimistic. I guess I'm an optimist. And I hope to see it work out well for the community.
Well, and I've been hearing, and there was something recently published that they're thinking that we might get an NBA expansion team by 2030. And do you have any thoughts?
I think it's coming. I think it's just a matter of time. Again, I think we've proven that we can support it. And Bill Foley, the owner of the Knights, is actively participating in that. I don't know if you heard him talk about it recently, but he did some media stuff after the Stanley Cup. There's a deal to be had as far as getting an NBA team to T-Mobile Arena, as long as Bill Foley is part of the ownership group. So you have that, and then you have another, I can't remember this group's name, but on the south end of the Strip, we're talking right around the Silverton, around the M, I think a $1 billion resort or a $10 billion resort. It's a large resort that they would have an arena attached to that to host an NBA team. I think you look at the NBA Summer League, that's something that we forget in Las Vegas, but that's been happening out here for 20 years. And now it's a constant sellout. It's 10, 20,000 people that show up at Cox Pavilion and the Thomas and Mack Center, and that's just coming up here in July. That's going to be a sellout again. People are rabid over the NBA, so it's an attractive market. They've always made that clear. So if you're excited, I mean, I'm excited about that too. There's so many options.
That's my favorite sport by far, and I love the NBA, and I'm like, I hope we get it because it's so fun, and I just think it would be so good for our city.
Again, I have nothing bad to say about it. And if somebody's going to develop it, again, with private funds, obviously that's not as controversial. I'm all for it. Bill Foley was able to do that with the Knights, and the Maloofs are part of that ownership group with the Knights as well, and they were able to make it happen with T-Mobile Arena. It's cool to celebrate. I got to meet Bill Foley again in my Fox 5 days super early on, and I was skeptical, going back to what I said at the start of this, that people would just use this for leverage, right? Who's real and who's not real.
Sure.
And as a younger kid growing up, I would get excited and hopeful, and then get my heart broken by these people that come in here. Unfair. But when I met Bill Foley very early on in this thing, I said, this guy's the real deal. He's an Army guy. I think he stands by his word, and he did. I mean, Cup and 6. And it happened. Unreal. Great guy. I think he's a great owner to have here, and I just love his demeanor, his personality. He's accessible. He hates if you call him Mr. Foley. You got to call him Bill. And he delivered. So as far as the sports landscape out here, Jerry Tarkanian is at the top of that list for sure, but I think Bill Foley belongs in that conversation as far as really the most influential sports people to ever hit Las Vegas for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go on record and say I was not for the public funding deal with the A's. I think that is the whole purpose of our podcast is to show that Vegas has roots, right? That people come here and they find community and they find belonging, and that it isn't a place for you to just fly by night, get a good deal, take what we have and leave. I think even the Foleys have their wine line, and it's a really it's a rooted life and in the community.
Sure, I get it.
They show that it matters to them.
And again, I've said it this whole time. I understand that side of it. I can only it might be a little bit more emotional for me, as in no, let's do it.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's we see the shiny object and we're let's get that.
The dollars have to make sense. And I only know it at a super high level, knowing that if I'm only paying for it when I'm on property, I'm okay with that. But I get the other side, because it's hundreds of millions of dollars that, yes, could be funneled to other areas that we've always, talked about. Education. There's plenty of places that could use more money out here in the community. So I see your point. I wouldn't argue against it. I just say, it is another opportunity for our community to rally around something. And
for sure.
I don't know, the A's, their track record, it's not good right now, but their track record is they do pretty well, not spending a lot of money. So if that team starts winning, you'll probably end up there. You'd go to a game.
Yeah, I'd be cool with it. Tell me what you think about the city of Henderson buying the land where the Fiesta once stood for the purpose of a sports complex.
Yeah, I think it's a great project, right? It's right by where I live. So again, not knowing all the details, as in I understand, it was kind of, they tore it down. The city of Henderson was kind of first in line. But more access to facilities for our youth is fabulous. I got a guy sitting right next to me,
Yeah,
here,
we've
a
got
10-year-old that he uses Lifeguard Arena. You know, that's a great facility. Don't be surprised to see him on the Golden Knights roster, okay, in a few years. But to get our kids more involved, and again, the city's growing. The city's growing so fast. It is. It is. Even, you know, in the 43 years that I've lived here, right, you're talking about 300,000 people, and now we're talking about 3 million people.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. So the infrastructure needs to catch up. So to develop that for our youth and for them to have access to that, I think is a cool deal. Now, you might know the real estate side much better than I do. I don't know if it's a good deal or a bad deal or an insider deal, but I do know that the access to it is going to be great for our kids.
Yeah, I mean, I just see some place like that. I mean, I feel like that's the entrance to Old Henderson, really, to East Henderson. So let's put something spectacular there. If that's what you're going to give public money for, and Henderson is going to build it up and, you know, do things around it that bring more people east to spread out into Henderson, then that's a different story, you know? So in Henderson, where are you going? What are you doing with your family? By the way, you made reference to your son, Gio. He's in the corner of the room. I don't have a camera shot of him, no.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, tell us where you're going in Las Vegas, where you recommend people to go when they're
Well,
here.
I love downtown Henderson.
Yeah.
I love, there's a Street Burger. I just went there the other day. That's really good. All those restaurants are really good. We enjoy going down to Lifeguard Arena with the kiddo. And yeah, we're kind of pickers and choosers. Island Sushi, that's one that we always go to. That's in Henderson. But I'm a Henderson kid. I mean, I grew up in Green Valley. You know?
Yeah.
So when you talk about Summerlin, I get a little cringe.
Yeah. So
No offense to the West Siders out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great area. It's a great community, but old school Vegas and Henderson, that's where it's at for me.
Yeah, the stratosphere belongs on the right.
Yeah. That's a good way to phrase it. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. No, growing up here has always been a great experience. I love this community with all my heart. I really do. And love serving it in the capacity that I serve it now with the students at UNLV and at the Water Authority. I do Carluccio's. Do you remember that restaurant?
That's familiar.
So this is where I grew up going. I
Okay.
can tell you that. Carluccio's. It was next to the Liberace Museum.
Okay.
Trop and Spencer.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I have been there, but we didn't go there a ton.
It's like, it had like twinkle lights on the ceiling.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
where I
yeah.
grew up going
Okay.
like, constantly. Anytime we had a family dinner, it was there. I missed that place. Shut down like 10 or 15 years ago. So that's old school Vegas. Now we're kind of getting bigger, and those little insider places, they're a little bit harder to find. The Bootlegger is another place that I enjoy going to as well. You know, old school Vegas is cool. You know, I've never been to Piero's, and that's probably a crime.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have been.
I have.
Yeah, it's been a crime. That's on my list. I just haven't made it out there yet.
Pretty good. Their osobuco's. It's worth it.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this a lot, and I'm like, you could live here, and I'm sure other cities are like this, but you could never make it to every restaurant. But I was like, I'm going to try.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying anything that people don't already know. I just love that we have access to the Strip, and we have access to everything off the Strip. 138 degrees? That's the steakhouse in Henderson?
Oh, yeah, 138.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
You asked the question. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the 43 years old catching up to me now. But no, that's a great place as well for brunch on the weekends.
Okay.
I love going there and taking my wife as kind of, when we celebrate something, we like going there.
Yeah.
And I will tell this story. Our anniversary was in April, and I had dinner reservations, and I was too tired, and I said, let's go to brunch instead. And so we went to brunch, and then we took a nap afterwards.
Yeah.
That's where we're going with our lives, so it's great.
Perfect.
I just turned 42, so I can feel this. Like naps. It's all about naps.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
We
Really
learned,
appreciate it.
yeah, we learned so much from you. We hope
Yes.
everybody follows the guidelines and follows you. Where can people catch you?
Yeah, just go to snwa.com. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on all the social media platforms where you can get content there. And you can ask us questions there, too. We're really responsive. We do get community members that are not receptive to the information that we put out, of course.
Sure.
But if you really want information, we're happy to answer it as best as we can and really provide the roadmap to a sustainable future here in Las Vegas.
And where can people follow you if they want to get some more sports?
Well, if you can spell
Info.
it, at Jon Castagnino, you can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm really active on the sports talk. Again, you might see pictures at Knights games. You might see pictures of me at an Aviators game, or The things I miss, though, or in media, are being at the big fights and then having better seats than like Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
and Shaq, I miss those things. I don't have as much access there, but you'll see me around town for sure at sporting events.
Awesome.
We'll share that in the show notes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
to meet you.